G'day guys! What do you think the strongest solar weapon is in Destiny 2? Maybe you're thinking of Phoneutria Fera, the new spread shot hand cannon. Maybe it's Ahab Char, the rapid fire auto. Or maybe you're thinking about melting literally everything with Lord of Wolves. Now, lock in that answer right now. Write it in the comments, just something, right? I'm pretty sure your opinion's gonna change by the end of this video, unless you're talking about Lord of Wolves, in which case, that's probably still gonna be the strongest weapon. Solstice has been going on for about a week now, and there's no specific activity to grind, meaning luckily there's no more bonfire bash. But if you haven't been participating in Solstice yet, I really think that now is the time to do so. Gear is currently dropping at +1 tier to the normal drops, meaning that even if you're low light, you can still get some really solid armor and weapon rolls under the new system, and this gear is stacked. In this video, we're going to go over the weapons first and talk about the armor and set bonuses a little later. Timestamps are just down below if you want to skip around and see specific things. But enough said, let's get started with the new Strand grenade launcher, Festival Flight. Festival Flight is the first and only Strand area denial frame grenade launcher, which, if you don't know, are basically like legendary wither hordes. They shoot a bunch of projectiles that leave damage over time fields on the ground, letting you either paint like a huge area or focus all the damage on one spot. Now this thing rolls really well. Almost every drop should have at least one usable perk or a combo that'll feel really nice. If you wanted to compare this with the only other kinetic slot option, Lost Signal, which is Stasis, the perk pools are like night and day. In the first slot, the big ones that we want to talk about are Demolitionist, Ambitious Assassin, and Envious Arsenal. These are probably the best 3 perks in the game at the moment that a grenade launcher could have. In case you don't know, Demolitionist reloads the weapon whenever you throw a grenade, and Final Blows give you 11% cooldown reduction. Ambitious Assassin gives you an extra shot in the mag if you reload after a final blow, and Envious Arsenal will automatically reload the weapon as long as you deal damage with both of your other weapons, so kind of like bait and switch. These 3 perks alone solidify this thing as super versatile. They allow for different playstyles or use cases on different builds. Ability builds are going to love like Demolitionist, ad clear rolls will use Ambitious, and DPS rotations will like Envious Arsenal. And that's only the first column. In the second slot, we've got Frenzy, One for All, and Attrition Orbs. Again, perfect for any use case really. Frenzy gives a damage bonus and maxes reload and handling after being in combat for a while. One for All gives a huge 35% damage boost after hitting only 3 enemies, and Attrition Orbs creates orbs on sustained damage. All 3 of these perks again fit very nicely into different playstyles. If you think about pairings, Ambitious and One for yellow bar or harder difficulty ad clear, and then you've also got like Demolitionist and Attrition Orbs for keeping ability rotations up at all times. Now, of course, because this is a Strand weapon, we have to talk about the big elephant in the room, being Slice in the first column and Hatchling in the second. Usually this is a combo I think anyone recommends on Strand weapons, right? Like with Slice, severing enemies after using your class ability makes them deal less damage, and Hatchling spawns Threadlings on final blows. It's like the most standard Strand combo that we've been seeing since Lightfall came out, right? But with the other perks this weapon can roll with, I really think that they're kinda outclassed. I think if you're running like a Strand Warlock, Demolitionist and Hatchling could be really nice, but then you're losing out on something like Frenzy or One for All. I think overall though, Festival Flight is a top tier contender for secondary options, especially with your elemental primaries like, Arc, Solar, and Void being really strong at the moment. Speaking of elemental primaries, let's talk about probably the most underrated Solstice weapon this time around, Fortunate Star. Fortunate Star is a precision frame void bow, which right off the rip already means that it has a ton of competition, right? I could go into a whole rant about how good bows are, but I will save it for now. I do love bows though. Tyranny of Heaven is like my second most used weapon in Destiny. But anyway, Fortunate Star is in direct competition with Le Monarch and Anamnesis from last season. Now, does it compete? Yes, very well in fact. In the first column, it's basically going to be impossible to overlook Dragonfly. Bows are primarily ad clear weapons, and explosions on precision final blows are beyond perfection, right? Archer's Tempo and Successful Warm-Up are both decent options, giving some of that draw speed back that it loses from being a precision frame, but I really don't think it's worth dropping Dragonfly for it. In the second column is where this thing really shines. Our big options here are going to be destabilizing rounds, where final blows explode, and that explosion makes nearby enemies volatile. We've also got Demoralize, which is the same except it weakens enemies, which makes them take more damage. And then finally, we've got Archer's Gambit, where hipfire precision hits lower your draw time by 60%, which is massive on a precision frame bow. It's literally the same as both Archer's Tempo and Successful Warm-Up combined. Archer's Gambit is like hands down one of the most impactful perks in the game, especially since how most bow players hipfire 99% of the time anyway. If you pair this with Dragonfly, it's so unbelievably good that we've only seen this pairing once before, and that was on the Salvation's Edge arc bow. Honestly, even if you don't like bows, I think you should chase this roll. It's a legendary Le Monarch through and through, and it feels incredible. Also, if you like these types of weapon breakdowns, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm doing these every time they drop new weapons and new rolls. You may think that that was a hard act to follow, but I assure you I saved the best for last. Yeartide Apex. This thing lives up to its name. It's arguably one of the best weapons we've gotten in years. It's a solar, lightweight SMG. Now, strangely, it should probably be an aggressive frame, given that it's a text mechanical weapon, but I digress. In the first column, we've got Heal Clip. Reloading after a final blow heals you and nearby allies. We've got Feeding Frenzy, where final blows give a ramping reload speed boost. And we've got Demolitionist. Now, unfortunately, Yeartide Apex doesn't roll with Subsistence, where final blows would reload portions of the magazine, but I think that's okay. They kind of had to limit this thing somehow, and trust me, with the base magazine size of 39, it really doesn't even need it. So already off the first column alone, we've got a great SMG with a huge mag and fast reload speed or healing. It's kind of all you could ever ask for, right? The last SMG that kind of matched this was Callus Mini Tool and like maybe the Ikelos SMG. But both of those have been phased out. You know, you can't get them and they're not new gear, so you don't get the damage bonus. Moving on to the second column, we've got options, right? Honestly, it's kind of hard to pick what the best one is, so I'd say, like, go get a few, right? First up, let's talk about Scorching Ambition, which is the new solar perk, and it's pretty simple. Sustained damage scorches enemies, and it's great for harder content and even better on solar builds. Our next contestant is Incandescent, which is an amazing perk, as I'm sure we all know. Final blows scorch nearby enemies, and that, again, stacks with solar builds and solar synergy. And our third big option is Chaos Reshaped, which used to be a perk exclusive to the Salvation's Edge suite of weapons, but for the first time is now dropping on this bad boy. If you don't know what Chaos Reshaped does, I understand completely. It's a super rare perk. Basically, it's like a different version of Frenzy. So being in combat gives a 20% damage buff, and staying in combat past that point will give a 35% damage buff, which is the highest any weapon can have besides Surrounded, and it also gives a small heal every few seconds. You're basically swapping out like the reload and handling from Frenzy with even more damage and some light healing. Now, I recommend you pick up multiple copies of this thing with all of the perks, right? But if you're only going for one, it's kind of tough to say, but if you want to lean into solar more, I'd go for Feeding Frenzy and Incandescent, which is super well rounded. It's a modern Callus Mini Tool. If you don't care about the solar damage, I would still get a copy of this thing with Feeding Frenzy and Chaos Reshaped. These perks make Yeartide Apex probably the most consistent ad clear weapon in the game, with great stats and a huge damage boost. I think that even if you aren't playing right now, you should probably jump on, run a few strikes or solo ops or whatever, and try and score a few good rolls of this thing, or maybe even just one good roll. It is that good. Alright, with the weapons covered, the other thing I want to talk about is the armor. With armor set bonuses existing now, this marks the first time that an event could have really good limited time set bonus that you don't want to miss out on. If you like solar builds, this is probably the one that you're going to want. And now is a great time for it, with those Solstice drops dropping a tier higher. You're getting a great set bonus on armor that's rolling above your average stats. The 2-piece set bonus on Lustrous armor, Photogalvanic, gives your solar weapons boosted handling, reload, and flinch resistance whenever you receive healing, which is perfect synergy with like Heal Clip, Healing Grenades, Phoenix Dive, Throwing Hammer, and also the 4-piece set bonus. We'll get into that in a second. But for a 2-piece set bonus, it's like mid-tier. It's very decent, very hard to complain about. Now, the 4-piece set bonus is where this set really picks up. Cauterize simply states that rapid solar final blows will heal you. And like, what does that actually mean? Because it sounds really close to the Bushido set bonus that heals, but there's one exception. The Bushido bonus has a cooldown. You can only heal for free once every few seconds, but Cauterize has no cooldown. Every few final blows with solar weapons or solar damage will heal you. Simple as that. It's a small heal, but it is noticeable. It's basically the same as like a standard tier 1 cure, so kind of like a free heal clip that automatically procs. In terms of set bonuses, this is probably one of the best that we've got at the moment, especially when you pair it with like Yeartide Apex or another solo weapon like Phoneutria Fera. Speaking of, if you missed Armsweek, you'll probably have a second chance to nab Phoneutria Fera, which is the solar spreadshot hand cannon, in a few weeks' time when it comes back on rotation. And to make sure that you don't miss out on the best possible rolls, check out my full breakdown just in the top right of the video and in the pinned comment down below. But anyway, Solstice is like surprisingly really good this time around. At the least, I reckon you should try for a few rolls of the Yeartide Apex, you really won't regret it. But if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.